All right, Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praises, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule and teach well, and also peace and safety to the Akim that spread across the four corners of the world, that's pushing out this truth with all diligence and putting their lives on the line to do so. The brother Karas is out here out of the Great Millstone, Atlanta. Back at you again with another lesson. Going into, the topic of miracles. I'm not sure what I, want to entitle it exactly. But we're living in, the times, where, very soon, on brief occasions now, brothers have, done miracles by way of, healing. Even by, us going out to the highways and byways, and teaching, the scriptures is a form of healing, for the elect, the ones that want to take heed, to what the prophets are saying. That's a form of healing, because, we're, once we, we heard the word, we, did away with that old man and we were born again. Now we understand, the conditions that we're in and why. We have a more understanding on life in general, and not being in that, confused state of mind. All right. So that's a form of healing, that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, did throughout us. And as you can see here, as I have, pulled up on, the screen, John 14:12, it says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father." You see? So the accounts, and I have an account, pulled up, just one out of many, that, Yahweh Shai, did. And it says here that, that we're going to do, the same works and greater that Yahweh Shai did. All right. It says, verse 13, "And whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son." You see, so at the end, the say I'll be all is that, everything that, the elect is going to do, is all to glorify, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, which is the Son. All right. So this is, I'm going to go to the same book, John chapter 9 and verse 1. It says, "And Yahweh Shai passed by. He saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Yahweh Shai answered, "Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of the Most High should be made manifest in him." You see? So the Heavenly Father, basically made this guy blind, just so, Yahweh Shai would be able to heal him. And that's the same thing that, the elect is going to be doing in this lifetime. All in the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. That's why it's important to, push that name out, as much as we can, because that's who's going to be receiving all the glory in that in these days coming. Not Buddha, not Muhammad, not these false prophets. All the glory is going to go to the Heavenly Father, man. All right. It says, "I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the world. I am the light of the world. You see? So Yahweh Shai was a prime example of being that light in the world. And we're following the footsteps of Yahweh Shai. You know, being lights, beacons to these people out here in the world. So it's going to be people, who the Heavenly Father, purposely, made lame, or have infirmities, have certain sicknesses and so on and so forth, just so that the miracles can happen. So it says, verse 6, when he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way, therefore, and washed, and came seeing. You see? So Yahweh Shai healed this guy who was blind his whole life. Says the neighbors therefore, and they which before had seen him, that he was blind, said, Is not this he that sat and begged? Some said, This is he. Others said, He is like him. But he said, I am he. Therefore said they unto him, How were thine eyes open? He answered and said, A man that is called Yahweh Shai made clay and anointed mine eyes, and said unto me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. You see? So the point being, is that Yahweh, the Heavenly Father made, this guy blind, Salakia, just so that Yahweh Shai can heal him, which gonna lead me to my next precept, Salakia. In Malachi chapter 4, in verse 2, it says, But unto you that shall fear my name. See, there goes the importance of the name Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai again. Their name is going to be magnified, as the days get more evil. Because you gotta remember, it's a combat between righteousness and wickedness that we're taking a part of. But the righteous is going to, triumph. All right? So we got to continue to call on the name of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai in order to, get the spiritual powers, in order to be, beamed up on the chariots and so on and so forth. All right? But it starts with having that fear, because if you don't have the fear, then you're going to be like these other guys saying that, you can call the Most High whatever you want to call him. They're not pushing the name. They're not, being sincere. They're teaching false doctrine because they don't fear. So why would the Lord deal with these guys, when necessary? He's not. His spirit is gonna be far removed away from him, man. But it says, But unto you that shall fear my name, shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and he shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. You see, so Yahweh Shai is coming back with healing in his wings, man. So everybody who we see, who have certain ailments and sicknesses and diseases, handicapped, all can be used, as examples, for miracles, man. Which is going to lead me to my last precept, the book of Psalms, chapter 110, and verse 3. It says, thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power, in the beauties of holiness from the womb of the morning, thou hast the dew of thy youth. You see, the BBE version says, your people give themselves gladly in the day of your power. You see, so from miracles, you know, the Akim are going to be doing, people are going to start believing. You know, people are, you know, and you know, people are going to be out, you know, against us as well, from the miracles that brothers are going to be doing, man, just as they did with Yahweh Shai. You know, that was one, you know, of the reasons why, you know, they went, you know, were against him, because, you know, of the things that Yahweh Shai was doing, you know, and they hated him for it. All right. So it's going to be the same story with us. You know, we just have to be prepared for both sides, so to speak. You know, so I just wanted to briefly touch on that. You know, Lord willing, it was edifying. I'm going to go ahead and close up by giving all praises, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakak Wadash, double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Till next time, Shalom.